Hey, everybody, welcome back to the 100 Guitarist podcast. My name is Jason Shadrick,
My name is Nick Milvoy.
and we are talking about the 100 guitarists you should know. And today, we're going to be talking about Nancy Wilson of Heart. But first, we need to talk about a recent field trip you took from 100 Guitarists HQ in Philly, and you went out to see who we talked about last week, the Rolling Stones.
I did.
So give us the 90-second review of the Rolling Stones at 85 or however old they are.
Those guys sound so good together. It's so nice to witness the two of those guys in the same room. They sounded totally dirty, just like nasty tones. Ronnie, I think, was using a couple dirt pedals. Keith, I don't know, maybe he had a boost or something, but it just sounded like he's got his two Tweed twins on stage, and it sounds like he's plugged in directly to those and just cranked. I didn't try and, I didn't see anything about like what they're using on the tour. I didn't really do any research. I just saw, he's got his two Tweed twins up there, and he was so loud in the mix. They were both so loud in the mix, and just like clean or just like dry, confrontational, dirty sounds. Keith mostly uses Telly, a 335, and Les Paul Jr. And
now, did he have on the telly? Was it a real 5-stringer?
I think he was. I think some of the guitars were 5 strings and some were 6 strings.
Multiple tellies.
I was not close enough to count strings, but the screens.
We need
were pretty
binoculars.
big. I did.
We need
use
binoculars the next time to suss out the settings.
No, I had the binoculars. I was far enough away that the binoculars, they were still little guys on the binoculars. But on the screen, it looked like, it's like he's going between 5 and 6 strings. But man, when he mostly took leads on like the 335s, and his tone just sounded big and fat and really round. It was just like such a joy. And then Ronnie, on the other hand, it's like he had a Strat, he had his Zemitis. There was another one. It was a custom thing that I've seen on Instagram before. I don't know what it was that he was using a little bit. I think he used on 2 songs. It was a gold guitar. But like Ronnie's tone is so different. It's so much more trebly than Keith's sound, at least when he's playing leads particularly. Ronnie played some lap steel too. That's right. And man, just his solos. It's like he would, when Keith would play, it's like they were pretty tight, concise, melodic solos. When Ronnie would play, it's like he just goes for it, and sometimes it just totally goes off the rail.
Right.
And I liked when that happened.
That's right. Yeah. And
Mick is amazing. I know it's like everybody, this is the easiest thing to talk about, and this is a guitar podcast. Mick did play a little bit of guitar, obviously. But geez, he's 80 years old and running around for 2 hours up and down this giant stage in a football
stadium. It's at
stadium.
a football stadium.
Yeah, I'm just amazed. And he sounded fantastic. The sound was great. The vibe was great.
Stadium sound was good. Sometimes that can be like...
Sometimes it's nasty. I did not go expecting it to sound nearly as good as it did. It's the Stones. I figured it was going to sound pretty good. I didn't think it was going to be... They're getting the top-notch stuff, but it sounded really, really great.
And I think open-air stadiums sound better than domed. I've been in some dome ones that have just been echo chambers. It's like, who signed off on this?
I've actually never been in a domed one. But in like an arena or something, I feel like it gets so much more boomy. This wasn't boomy. There was good like bass response. Like I heard Daryl and Steve Jordan's kick drum. Like between Steve Jordan and Daryl Jones, like those guys are so hooked into each other. I miss Charlie. I miss his fills especially. But Steve did a great job.
So thumbs up, the official review.
2 thumbs up, man. 2
Stone
thumbs
still
up.
got it. I'm going on record right now, and I told you this earlier. I don't think this is their last tour. I don't think it is.
I hope you're right, because if they can go on another tour in 2 years, I'll probably go to see them. The prices are stupid. It's really expensive. But I would do it again, because afterwards, like now, 2 days later, I'm kind of sad. I'm kind of sad about it. I want to go see the Stones again. So,
Well, undoubtedly they'll make a live record out of this tour.
yeah.
Don't they
hell
just make a live record out of every tour?
yeah. I mean, I think at this point, yeah.
All right.
Everything's a celebration.
So that's your official Stones update.
That's my, yeah.
Just a reminder, you can email us at 100guitarists at premierguitar.com. And you can text, leave a voicemail for us at 319-423-9734. Leave us a message about keep an eye on our socials to see who we're going to be talking about in a future episode, or just leave us a message about a guitar player that you think should make the cut.
Or did you see the Rolling Stones and you want to email us and just talk to us about how great they are?
That's right. We welcome all Stones exchanges, all Rolling Stones related interactions.
That's right.
Today's episode is sponsored by Gibson. And tell us a little bit about what we're talking about today, Nick.
Well, Gibson has the new Dual Falcon 20. It's a 2x10 combo amp inspired by the Gibson Falcon amps from the 1960s. And this new one is an all-new design from renowned amp pioneer Randall Smith, who's best known from the Mesa Boogie design team. And the Gibson Dual Falcon 20 is handcrafted in Petaluma, California.
So it has 3 power options as a 10-inch, 2 10-inch Jensen Blackbird 40 Alnico speakers. It comes stock with 6L6 tubes, or you can also swap them out for 6V6. Has a couple different, you can go 15 watts, 6 watts, 2 watts. If you really want to get the Keith Richards stadium sound, right? Small amps cranked up, right?
Yep.
Class A, pentode, triode, bunch of different power options. It has spring reverb, has tremolo, and the most important thing is that it looks pretty happening. Like,
yeah, it looks like an old
very
Falcon.
hip looking amp. So
yeah.
For more information about that and everything else Gibson does, head on over to gibson.com.
And tell them we sent you.
And tell them we sent you. So, today, Nancy Wilson, Nick.
Seattle's
Nancy
own.
Wilson is the focus of today's episode.
Yes.
We all know her from Heart. What I learned in research is that Heart was kind of existing and Nancy joined Heart.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I didn't know that either. I always thought that Heart formed out of the Wilson sisters, which of course, like in a way it did. But Anne was up in Vancouver and had a band, and Nancy's a couple years younger, moved up there, and the rest is history. She joined the band, but she did not just instantly become accepted into the band, did she?
No, she had to audition. And when I learned about, if we can trust the internet, learning about the song they asked her to play for her audition, like totally connects the lines for me, because the song they had her learn was Yes's The Clap. I've heard The Clap or Clap, which is a very intricate Steve Howe acoustic fingerstyle piece, you know. And to me, that's like a straight through line through Crazy on You.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
and that's like
on You.
Nancy was doing like a singer-songwriter thing when she was at college, in high school and college. She had 2 different duos that were like songwriting duos with different people that she was working on, and she was like going for a folky singer-songwriter thing. So fingerstyle was her thing. She wasn't from she talks about in the book about Heart. In the book Kicking and Dreaming, a story of heart, soul, and rock and roll, which is an oral history of Heart, mostly told by Anne and Nancy Wilson, but also with other characters sort of coming and going. She talks about like her early time playing guitar before Heart, and like she wasn't really interested in lead guitar. And that's sort of like, yeah, I think that's like, and it, like you said, an interesting through line, and that, you know, she comes up, she's moving in with her sister, and you know, the bandmates are like, well, why is she going to be in the band? She's not, you know, I guess like she's not a lead guitar player, she's an acoustic guitar player, and then, you know, she wows them with the clap and just nails it, and then is in the band. Right.
And we also got to give a special shout out to Roger Fisher and Howard Leese, who plays a lot of those signature leads on the early Heart stuff. And there's really like Heart's had a long career. They've gone through a couple different hiatuses and whatnot, but they really kind of had two periods of real like commercial success. And the first one was with the first three records: Dreamboat Annie in 1975, Magazine in 1977, and Little Queen, which is also in 1977. All those went multiple platinum. Even Dog and Butterfly, I would say that those first four records. And then
Baby
they
Lestrange
kinda
is
did-
pretty solid too.
Yep,
That's from 1980.
that's true. What were the hits on that one? I don't know if there were any big hits that Even It Up, maybe the title track. And then they kind of came back around in the mid 80s with the self-titled record Heart, which had These Dreams on it. Co-write on These Dreams, the famous Bernie Taupin of Elton John fame, right? So they had Heart, Bad Animals, and Brigade was kind of their second era of commercial success. And then since then, they've continued to put out records, and they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2013, which I almost remember. We're going to get to this in a second, but like when I think of like big epic TV show moments, that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, that was a good one. But to me, the Kennedy Center Honors was like
That's the big one.
like career capping thing because, well, let's just get to it. I think the Zeppelin thread that goes through their entire career, like we got to talk about that for a second. So I don't know any other band that wears, maybe there isn't, we just have to think about it a second, but wears a prime influence on their sleeve so, not obviously, but so deliberately, I guess you could say, right?
Yeah, I could see that. I don't think it's like it's obvious in a different kind of way. It's not like, I don't think they sound like Zeppelin. I think they sound inspired by Zeppelin. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we're not talking Greta Van Fleet inspired
No,
by.
not at all.
We're talking by somebody who really internalized that music and loves the music, and that pushed them in new directions. Type thing.
Yeah. In Kicking and Dreaming, there's a lot of good stuff there about their early days. And they were playing like a set of Zeppelin songs when they were performing. They have the classic story of a band coming up, well before this period in time where these sorts of gigs were available back in the 70s when, a rock and roll band's pedigree, like, involved doing a bar gig for a long time where you were playing like 5 hours a night or something, three sets a night, whatever. And for Heart, they were doing that. They were playing at a club in Vancouver, and they were playing Zeppelin tunes.
And to have it like go from you're playing Vancouver in a bar to fast forward whatever 40, 50 years later, and you're literally playing for Zeppelin.
Yeah.
And not only just playing, you're doing like such a great job that Robert Plant is in tears. It's so good.
Yeah, we'll put that. I feel like that's like when that happened, that was just like everybody who talks about guitar stuff. I don't know. Everybody had seen that video. That video was going around for sure. But yeah, they're playing Stairway to Heaven and just like crushing it.
When I put it in our show notes, it has like 150 million views.
Oh my God.
Like there's a lot. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. They also did an album later on, which I think is kind of like a secret underground Heart record, by a band Ann and Nancy put together called the Love Mongers. Came out in 97. The album's called Whirligig. And it was with Sue Ennis and Frank Cox. It was released in 97. And to me, that is like maybe a forgotten Heart album. You have kind of the main elements there, but since they weren't calling it Heart, I think they had a bit more freedom to kind of do what they wanted to do.
Yeah, if you watch the VH1 Behind the Music from back in the day, that's where it ends, is with the Love Mongers. Like that's
where did they leave it? Like
that's like the final. That's where they leave it. Like Heart has broken up, Heart is over, the story is over, and now the Wilson sisters have found a new musical outlet, and it's the Love Mongers. And there's a couple like little live clips, and that's like credits.
Well, we have a voicemail this week. Nick, tell us about it.
All right, so we have a voicemail from guitarist Lindsay Ell talking
Friend
about...
of the show. Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, Lindsay Ell, talking about the influence of Nancy Wilson on her music.
Hey, this is Lindsay Ell calling on behalf of Nancy Wilson. Nancy, I just need to say thank you on behalf of female guitarists on the planet. Thank you for having a style that's so diverse that it's even hard to classify everything that you do. Thank you for paving the way for so many female guitarists to come after you. I look up to you more than you know. I'm just so grateful for you and your artistry and your talent, and hope that one day we can play together. Thank you for being you, Nancy.
Oh, I like that Lindsay is calling on Nancy for a collaboration.
Yeah, and of course, the number one place to go for that, to put the word in, to put it out into the universe, is right here on 100 Guitarists.
All right, listeners, don't you forget that.
Yeah, well, yes. Don't call in and say, we want to play with Clapton. She's probably not going to hear it. But yes, I think Lindsay Ell, Nancy Wilson would be an incredible pairing.
Hell yeah.
To have them together. They would fit, I think, really well together.
But I think I want to talk about something that Lindsay said there, was just like about how Nancy is hard to classify. And I think that's sort of the thing that I've been thinking about the past couple of days getting ready to do this episode, is like the appreciation of rhythm guitar, because Nancy mostly doesn't play leads. There's some lead guitar stuff that's mostly on the later period Heart stuff that she takes leads, but on the early stuff especially, she's playing rhythm, and that is such an important part of the sound of the band. I think about, like, when I think about Heart guitar parts, my favorite one is Crazy on You, and it's the part, it's the intro. That whole thing is just so rad, and I think that makes the case of, like, pay attention. She's not just strumming an acoustic guitar. There's some serious playing going down. I listened to a podcast the other day where guitarist Ella Feingold was talking about rhythm guitar, and Ella Feingold talks a lot about rhythm guitar on her Instagram page. She was actually just featured in an issue of Premier Guitar. And Ella was saying, like, that something about, a cool thing about rhythm guitar is, like, if you can play this, like, one thing just, like, over and over and over again. And she's talking about funk guitar, so it's like like that kind of thing. If you have the confidence to go up or do you have the confidence to, like, go play a gig and just play that, not try and show off any of your licks? And I heard that, and I'm thinking about Nancy Wilson, and, like, yeah, Nancy Wilson has the confidence to do that. And in her book, she talks about it a little bit, about how she's like, I could be a lead guitar player, but, like, the lead guitar is the other lead voice. My sister was the lead voice. And then, like, one of the other guys, Roger Fisher, Howard Leese, like, are there to balance out her energy with this, like, macho thing she's talking about. And then she's like, but the real heart of the song is the rhythm. And I think that's, like, not every band, I mean, I think generally that is the truth, but it's like not every band represents that as hard as Heart. When I am, like, thinking about what they sound like, I'm thinking about her. I mean, she plays a lot of electric guitar, obviously, but, like, to me, 70s Ovation sound in that music, like, I think that's the coolest thing. I remember I bought an Ovation when I was in high school, and my guitar teacher was like, you should learn some Heart songs. So,
have you ever sat down to learn the intro to Crazy on You?
I think I did learn, like, a simple version of it as, like, a kid, but I know how to play, the rest of the song, but I don't know how to. No,
it's hard.
Do you? Yeah,
I think I was in the same boat. I tried, and I'm like, dang. It, like, at times, it almost, like, gives me, like, obviously this was much later, but, like, Tommy Emmanuel vibes, like, with that kind of syncopation and finger independence on your right hand and stuff.
That's something that's not in the book in Kicking and Dreaming. It's like, I want to know more about, like, how she developed those chops, where she's talking about, like, songwriting and stuff like that, which is awesome and totally cool. And obviously, she made her success, like, the Heart's success comes from songwriting more than, like, flashy guitar playing. But come on, there's some flashy guitar playing there. I want to know where that came from and how she developed that.
And she might be on. I think she is on my list of guitar players that I have yet to see that I would like to.
Oh
She
yeah.
wasn't like a prime influence on me, but man, I'd love to see her rock out with Heart now. Now that they're back together and they're touring this summer.
hmm
That would be a super fun show.
They were doing
know.
some TV rounds very recently.
Yes, I would like to. And also,
Sound great.
her multi instrumentalist. There's this other video that we're going to put in the notes. Back to the Zeppelin thing is that in '95 they played. I would imagine this maybe is for Zeppelin's induction. They played the Battle of Evermore, and it was just Nancy on mandolin and Ann on Ovation acoustic, I
Yeah.
believe.
Which is so cool.
And to this day, I think they still play at least a couple Zeppelin tunes in their set.
Yeah.
Because when we did the rig rundown 9 years ago now, they did play a couple Zeppelin tunes, just as like the encore in the set. There's like, yeah, we're just gonna play what's more fun than playing Zeppelin tunes with your sister or whatever.
That's so cool.
So yeah, I would love to hear them talk more about their later Zeppelin fandom. Like everybody was kind of a fan in the early '70s when they're playing the songs in the bars, but now, they've worked with John Paul Jones and they had this huge moment playing for the band at the Kennedy Center. Like, how do they kind of, reconcile that in their heads, knowing how they felt when they were, 20 and
Yeah.
ripping on, Whole Lot of Love or whatever, But yeah, the point you brought up about where those chops developed, because obviously they had to have been kind of in place if she's playing the clap at the band audition.
Right.
Like, because that's not an easy tune either.
Yeah, she figured some stuff out.
Yeah, she figured, and it doesn't sound like she's coming from a Chet Atkins finger style background.
No, different feel. It's not that swingy, bouncy thing.
And she's growing up in Seattle, not Nashville. So yeah, I would love to hear Nancy once you line up that collaboration with Lindsay Ell. Let's talk about your early fingerstyle guitar.
So there is stuff in Kicking and Dreaming where Joni Mitchell is like a thread through the book, where before she joined Heart, when she was still a teenager, I think she was in college at this point, her and a friend tried to hitchhike and go to Joni Mitchell's house. And they had this incident where they got picked up and had a bad hitchhiking story. That's in the book. And, they escaped. They were okay. But they were trying to, they were basically stalking, well, whatever. They were trying to go to Joni Mitchell's house to go see her. And then like later she thinks she's going to meet Joni Mitchell, and somebody says like, hey, do you want to meet Joni? And she meets Joan Baez. And then Anne tells the story in the book. And I listened to the audiobook, so it's all just like the two of them just like telling the stories back and forth. So Anne tells the story and, talks about how disappointed Nancy was when Joan Baez walks up. And she thought it was going to be Joni Mitchell, because whoever introduced her, I think it was Joan Baez's sister, is like, do you want to meet Joni? And that was her nickname for Joan Baez. But I guess it's like, I mean, Joni Mitchell, like, that's a place to develop some chops. I don't know if that's really what I hear in Nancy Wilson's playing. That like alternate tuning thing that Joni does is,
right,
to me, a completely different thing.
And Joni didn't have the same type of like high power, rapid fingerstyle chops.
Right.
That
it's a way more chill, laid back thing.
Yeah. But I could definitely see that, singer, songwriter, acoustic guitar. Let's see what we can do with it,
Yeah.
All right. We have another, some fan feedback here from my old friend Karen Hogue, who is an incredible musician and educator. I first met when I was doing the National Guitar Workshop back maybe 15 years ago now, 20 years ago. And Karen also wrote an incredible book on ukulele.
Cool.
So if you want to get into your ukulele chops together, look that one up. And she wrote this. She wrote, Nancy Wilson has been an important influence on me. As someone who loves rock and roll but also loves the acoustic guitar, I always admired how she brought such a strong acoustic element into Heart's music. Her finger-picking on tunes like Dreamboat Annie and Dog and Butterfly is fluid and musical, serving the song perfectly. And of course, the pairing of Silver Wheels into Crazy on You is basically a blueprint for the acoustic guitar in rock and roll. Regarding the rhythm guitar in Crazy on You, I don't think Nancy gets enough credit for her rhythm playing. It is rock solid, a driving, hugely important element of Heart. As I took both classical guitar and rock guitar lessons in high school, Nancy Wilson showed me how the two worlds could coincide and even meld together. Nancy also showed me that there was a place for a girl like me. When I first started playing guitar in the mid-'80s, there were very few women that I could look to as role models. I cannot count the number of times I was the only woman in any given musical situation. It was really important to me to see other women playing guitar. I have always loved the music of Heart, but I also love that Nancy created a path for players like me. So, yeah, it's that acoustic driving rhythm thing that was kind of prevailing throughout Heart. You know, that's definitely tied to Nancy. She was the Keith Richards of Heart.
She was, yeah. It is like, man, what a cool position. I've always thought Keith Richards was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because of course he is. But it's like, as I get older, my appreciation for rhythm guitar has really grown. Like, I'm of course still interested in lead guitar, but my appreciation for rhythm guitar and that position in the band specifically, like the person who's like actually sort of controlling the sound of the band and not, you know, and part of that involves like not taking all the leads. I think that's so cool. Like Keith takes some leads when it's the appropriate time to do it. And so it's like, you know, it's the right time. And with Nancy, it's like those standout parts, whether it's a solo or whether it's, you know, the intro to Crazy on You or what, you know, whatever it is, it's like those are there with such intent and purpose.
Yeah.
That, you know, that it's a very cool role to play.
So in the later years, Nancy did some solo stuff when Heart wasn't rolling around, but she also has a big period where she was doing film scores.
Right.
At the time she was married to Cameron Crowe, and so she had a big hand in the scores to Jerry Maguire, Vanilla Sky, Elizabethtown, and Almost Famous.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of an underrated part of her career, because some of those, especially Almost Famous, like some of those super hip riffs and stuff. I mean, that's Nancy. You know? And we're going to put, at least as I was looking through what to put on the playlist for this episode, I'm definitely going to put a couple things from those film scores in the playlist. So check that out down below.
Oh, good call. So how about Nancy Wilson's gear? I feel like there's just a couple big things that really stand out. Obviously, we've talked a lot about her Ovation.
Right.
There it is. And the cool story about, you know, in Heart lore is that she gave Eddie Van Halen an Ovation one time. They were staying at the same hotel and, you know, talking, and Eddie said something like he didn't own an acoustic guitar, and she was like, I'm going to buy you an acoustic guitar. But it was the middle of the night. And she was like, called the road manager, you know, or one of her tech or something, and was like, all right, we need to get Eddie an acoustic guitar. And I was like, I can't get an acoustic guitar right now. And she was like, bring me my Ovation. And she says it was like her favorite one, or one of her favorite ones. I think she says it's her favorite one. And she like,
it's a better story if it's her favorite one.
It's a better story. But I'm pretty sure that's what she says. So she says, bring me my Ovation. It's her favorite one. And gives it to Eddie, goes to sleep, wakes up in the morning, first thing in the morning. Eddie calls her and is like, Nancy, I wrote this song on the guitar you gave me. And he says it's the nicest thing that anybody's ever done for him is give him this guitar, and puts the phone down and plays a solo guitar piece he composed for her. And then as she tells it in the book, he falls asleep at the end of the call, and like it drifts off. And she said, this is the best thing I've ever heard Eddie Van Halen ever play. And that's it. He must have forgotten it. But he stayed up all night. He stayed up all night playing this guitar and wrote this piece that only Nancy Wilson has ever heard.
That's great. That's
right?
incredible. And Nancy wrote a tribute to him on, I think, her latest solo record.
Mm-hmm.
It's called, the track is called For Edward. And there's a great video of her playing it on YouTube, and we'll put that link down below. But overall, man, Nancy Wilson is an all-timer.
Yeah.
All-timer.
Oh, she's got a couple signature guitars too, though.
That's right.
Electrics.
She has the Gibson Nighthawk and then the Epiphone Fanatic, which also has the Nighthawk body. Which, if you've never played one, it's almost like if you can imagine like an OM electric guitar.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a small-bodied electric guitar, And kind of the defining features is that it has a slanted humbucker in the bridge, and I believe a mini humbucker in the neck.
I've always thought that slanted humbucker looks kind of cool.
Yeah, the slanted humbucker, totally like would
Smooth.
approve. Would love more guitars. And single cut, smaller body, and it's like I remember seeing somebody play slide on it one time, and it just seems so like smooth and light and easy to play. I've played a couple of them in guitar stores just out of curiosity, not knowing the relationship with Nancy Wilson, and they're super comfortable.
Yeah.
Super comfortable. They sound great, and the Epiphone one is like $600.
Awesome.
So
Can't beat it.
that might be cheaper than a couple tickets to go see him on the tour this summer. when you factor in parking and everything else, man.
Definitely cheaper than a couple Stones tickets and parking.
All right. So, as we said, Nancy is an all-timer, big fan over here. And I think we hit it all. So check out our playlist down below to get your Nancy Wilson fix.
And if we missed anything, feel free to reach out or, talk about who you want to see next. Again, it's 100 Guitarists at premierguitar.com. And the number for voicemails and texts is 319-423-9734. We love to hear voicemails. We love playing voicemails. So get on the show by leaving us a message.
That's right. And next week, we have a big one, Nick.
Who's it going to be, Jason?
Brian May of Queen.